Section 1, The Arrival. Earth Command, this is Commander Alya of Galactic Alliance Central. You actually summoned the Special Forces? A sharp crackling sound buzzed through the communicator, followed by an all-too-casual reply, well, yeah. We did. Got a problem? Commander Alya's four iridescent eyes narrowed as she adjusted her headset, casting a dubious glance across the shimmering control deck of her cruiser. Humans. Even after years of diplomatic exchanges, they still had that impossible air of brazenness. Summoning the Galactic Alliance's special forces wasn't something anyone did lightly, it was for extreme, end-of-all-life emergencies. And yet, here were the humans, calling them in like one might order a pizza. Do you even know what it means to summon the special forces? Alya's voice brimmed with exasperation, her deep purple skin catching the reflection of the flashing lights around her. Earth Command's reply crackled back with a strange mixture of nonchalance and urgency. Oh, don't worry, we've got a pretty good idea. We're dealing with a, rather unusual situation. One that we think warrants extreme measures. Alya sighed, looking over to her second-in-command, Captain Rock, who wore a look of thinly veiled amusement. Let me guess, she muttered, they broke something and now they expect us to fix it? Rock snorted, his rugged face breaking into a wry grin. It wouldn't be the first time, Commander. Humans had a reputation in the galaxy for improvising their way out of situations that would leave other species frozen in sheer terror. Unfortunately, their improvisation sometimes led to a bit too much collateral damage. Alya still recalled the disaster on Kepler Prime when the humans had attempted to introduce tactical lasers to an unstable ecosystem. The Alliance's cleanup crew was still trying to reverse the effects of that mishap. Fine, Alya relented, opening the comm link. State your situation, Earth Command. What emergency have you stirred up this time? For a moment, the connection was silent, and she could almost imagine Earth Command's operatives exchanging uneasy glances. Then the voice returned, with an edge of genuine tension. It's aliens. We've encountered a race we've never seen before, and they're more advanced than anything we've dealt with. They call themselves the Aerithrax, and they're not here for peace talks. Alya's heart dropped. The Aerithrax. She had only heard rumors of them, a race of conquerors who plundered worlds and enslaved entire civilizations, leaving nothing but ashes in their wake. Her eyes met Rock's, and he gave a grim nod. This was no ordinary mess-up. And you thought, Alya said, her tone now deadly serious, that calling the Alliance Special Forces would somehow give you an edge? We don't have a choice, Earth Command replied, their tone unusually subdued. We've tried everything in our arsenal, but nothing's working. They're tearing through our defenses like paper. Understood, Alya replied, suppressing a shudder. She quickly activated her ship's tactical display, scanning for Earth's coordinates. We'll rendezvous with you shortly. Don't do anything rash. Rock chuckled as she closed the comm, don't do anything rash. That's like telling a Solarian not to molt. She shot him a look. Just prep the crew. We're going in blind, and we have no idea what we're up against. As Alya's ship, the Vigilant Flame, roared into the warp corridor, she briefed her team. The Aerithrax were an unknown quantity. The only intel the Alliance had on them was from fragmented reports and legends passed down through species they had all but eradicated. They were ruthless, highly organized, and wielded technology so advanced that even the Alliance's best scientists could only theorize about its mechanics. As the ship hurtled toward Earth, Alya prepared herself mentally. The humans had always had an uncanny way of surprising everyone around them. Part of her was curious about how they'd react under pressure from an adversary they couldn't simply outwit or outgun. Moments later, the ship emerged from warp over Earth's northern hemisphere, the glittering blue planet suspended like a jewel against the darkness of space. But the beauty was marred by chaos. Alya's view screen displayed scenes of devastation, smoke billowed from shattered cities, fleets of Earth's ships were burning in orbit, and bizarre, angular ships of Aerithrax design loomed ominously over the planet. Her crew gasped at the sight. It was one thing to read about the Aerithrax, it was another to see them in action. Alya activated her comm link. Earth Command, we've arrived. We're scanning the situation and, she paused as she noticed something peculiar. It was a human transport ship, a ragtag vessel by galactic standards, heading straight for the largest Aerithrax warship. Alya squinted at her screen. What are they doing? Earth Command came back, sounding harried but calm. Oh, that's just one of our special tactical units. They're testing out a little idea. Alya almost laughed. Humans and their ideas. Do they even have a plan, or are they just trying to crash into the enemy flagship? Bit of both, the voice admitted. They call it Operation Trojan Hammer. We're, hoping for the best. Alya watched as the transport zoomed closer to the Aerithrax vessel, then vanished in a blinding flash of light. A moment later, the Aerithrax ship wobbled, flames bursting from its hull. But it wasn't destroyed, it merely turned its attention to Earth, retaliating with a vengeance that made Alya's heart race. You humans are insane, Alya murmured, though a small part of her was impressed. She toggled a switch on her control panel. Prepare to engage, everyone. Let's show these Aerithrax what the Alliance is made of. The vigilant flame plunged into the battle, darting through a thick cloud of human ships that had formed a desperate, haphazard line against the Aerithrax. It was like watching a herd of deer trying to fend off wolves. Earth's fleet was woefully outgunned, but they fought with a tenacity that even the seasoned Alliance soldiers couldn't help but respect. As her ship skimmed close to an Aerithrax frigate, Alya issued a command to her weapons officer, a steely-eyed alien named Farah. Target their stabilizers. Let's knock them off balance. With swift efficiency, Farah fired a focused burst of plasma at the frigate, sending it spinning off course. But the victory was short-lived. Another Aerithrax ship swooped down, unleashing a barrage that rocked the vigilant flame. They're fast. Rock grunted, gripping the edge of his console. Alya gritted her teeth. We're faster. Farah, get us into position for a tactical sweep. I want all guns on that ship. But just as they maneuvered into firing range, another voice crackled over the comms. Galactic Alliance vessel Vigilant Flame, this is Major Sarah Quinn of Earth's Special Tactical Unit. We're requesting assistance, our transport's been hit, and we're drifting. Alya's mind raced. Helping Earth's soldiers would mean pulling away from their offensive position, giving the Aerithrax time to regroup. But she couldn't ignore the plea. Rock, redirect us to the coordinates of the distress call. Farah, cover us. The Vigilant Flame broke formation, weaving through the chaos toward the damaged transport. On board, Alya caught sight of a squad of humans, their armor scorched and battered, clinging to their crippled vessel. Major Quinn stood at the forefront, her face streaked with grime but her expression resolute. Alya signaled her comms officer. Major Quinn, we're sending a boarding tube. Prepare to transfer. Moments later, Quinn and her team stumbled onto the Vigilant Flame. Alya greeted her with a nod, quickly scanning the human soldiers, rough around the edges but unmistakably determined. Nice timing, Commander, Quinn said, catching her breath. Not sure how long we would have lasted out there. Alya smirked. Consider it a lucky break. Now, let's get you settled in. She turned to her crew. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. But as Quinn's squad spread out on the ship, Alya noticed something odd about one of the soldiers, a tall, silent man who seemed uneasy, clutching a metal case close to his chest. He barely reacted to his surroundings, his gaze fixed on the case. Hey, what's in there? Rock asked, his curiosity piqued. The man glanced up, his face unreadable. It's classified. Alya exchanged a look with Quinn, who shrugged. Don't ask me. That's special intel. They called it the final key. Claimed it might just be what we need to beat these aliens, but nobody's told us how it works. A chill ran down Alya's spine. It was just like humans to bring something mysterious and dangerous into the heart of a war zone, all in the hope it would tip the scales. She glanced at the soldier holding the case, wondering what kind of device could be powerful enough to shift the balance against the Aerithrax. Just then, an alarm blared through the ship, jolting everyone's attention back to the battle. The vigilant flame rocked under a direct hit, sending sparks flying from the control panels. Farah yelled, "Commander! The Aerithrax have deployed reinforcements, they're surrounding us." Alya cursed under her breath. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and facing an unknown threat that could destroy Earth and the entire Alliance if left unchecked. Turning to Quinn, she straightened, her expression resolute. "Looks like we're about to see if that final key of yours can work some miracles." Quinn met her gaze, a fierce determination sparking in her eyes. "Let's hope it's everything they promised, and more." Section 2, Rising Conflict. The vigilant flame shuddered as another round of Aerithrax fire strafed the hull, the control room vibrating under the impact. Alya tightened her grip on the edge of the console, her mind racing through their options, or rather, the glaring lack of them. "Status report," she shouted over the cacophony. "Shields down to 35%, Farah responded, her face drawn with concentration. "We're holding, but another hit like that, and we're toast." Alya's gaze flicked to Major Quinn and her squad. They stood tense but ready, gripping their weapons with the hard determination she'd come to recognize in Earth's elite soldiers. Her eyes landed on the man with the metal case, the so-called final key, still gripping it like his life depended on it. "Major Quinn," Alya called over, "any word on what that device does? If we're about to be obliterated, now's the time to try anything that might save us." Quinn nodded, looking at the soldier. "Mason. Open it. We need whatever advantage we can get." Mason hesitated, glancing from Alya to Quinn, then to the case in his hands. Slowly, he set it down, unlocked a series of latches, and opened the lid. Inside, nestled in protective foam, was a sleek, silvery orb pulsing with a faint blue light. "That is the final key?" Alya asked, raising an eyebrow. Mason met her gaze, his voice low. "It's a quantum disruption device. Not a weapon, exactly, but it has unusual effects. If deployed correctly, it could destabilize the Aerithrax ship systems and cause temporary disruptions in their neural interfaces." "So it's a chance to level the playing field," Quinn said, nodding with grim satisfaction. "And given that their ships run on neural synchrony, it might just give us the edge we need." Alya didn't waste time. "Mason, get that thing prepped. We're going to need all the help we can get." As Mason started working on the device, Rock turned to Alya, his face a mixture of skepticism and hope. "This is all assuming that we even get close enough to deploy it." "We don't have a choice, Rock," Alya replied, her gaze steely. "Set course for the Aerithrax flagship. We're taking this straight to their leader." The bridge fell silent as her order hung in the air. Taking on an Aerithrax flagship was suicidal by most standards. But the crew of the Vigilant Flame knew what they were fighting for. They watched Earth's forces fighting tooth and nail below, and they understood the stakes. If they could somehow throw the Aerithrax fleet into chaos, they might just buy Earth the time it needed. The ship lurched as they pivoted toward the towering form of the Aerithrax flagship, a vessel that dwarfed the Vigilant Flame by many magnitudes. The alien ship was unlike anything Alya had ever seen, its exterior sleek, black, and devoid of any visible seams or structures, as though it were a solid slab of obsidian floating through space. Lights pulsed along its surface in intricate, shifting patterns, like the heartbeat of some monstrous creature. As they closed the distance, Alya felt her heart thudding. Every instinct told her to retreat, to pull away from the looming shadow of the flagship. But they were past the point of no return. "Mason, how long until that device is ready?" she asked, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "Just another minute," he replied, his fingers dancing over the controls as he synchronized the device's frequency with the Aerithrax's energy signatures. But before he could finish, an alarm blared across the bridge. "Incoming!" Farah shouted. A volley of plasma fire rained down on them, rocking the ship with brutal force. Alya was thrown against the control panel, feeling a sharp pain as her shoulder collided with the edge. She gritted her teeth, forcing herself back upright. "We can't take another hit like that," Rock shouted, panic flashing across his face. "Mason, now would be a good time," Quinn called out, clutching her weapon as if it could somehow protect them from the onslaught. Mason gave a tight nod. "The device is ready." He held the orb up, its blue light intensifying, casting strange shadows over his face. "But it's got to be within proximity of the enemy's neural core, closer than we are now." Alya made a snap decision. "Rock, set course for the flagship's central cluster. We're going in." The crew braced as the vigilant flame darted forward, weaving through streams of enemy fire, each volley brushing perilously close. As they neared the flagship, the Aerithrax vessel seemed to sense the approach of a threat. Its energy patterns began to pulse faster, and Alya could feel an ominous hum reverberating through the bridge. They were seconds away from deployment range when a new complication emerged. A squadron of Aerithrax fighter drones peeled away from the flagship, converging on the vigilant flame. "Those drones will tear us apart," Farah warned, her fingers flying over her console as she activated the ship's automated defense turrets. "We need more firepower to keep them off." Alya turned to Quinn, her expression grim. "Think you and your team can hold them off long enough for Mason to deploy the device?" Quinn's mouth twisted into a determined smile. "You got it, Commander." Quinn and her squad sprinted to the gun decks, the ship rocking under a renewed assault as they fought to hold off the approaching drones. The battle was brutal, the humans and Alliance crew alike working in perfect sync to fend off the attackers. But despite their efforts, the Aerithrax drones pressed closer, their weapons slashing through the vigilant flame's weakened shields. Down below, Alya saw Quinn and her squad engaged in a desperate firefight, their weapons blazing as they repelled wave after wave of drones. Mason, meanwhile, clutched the final key as he edged toward the ship's forward section, sweat beading on his forehead. He had to get close enough to the Aerithrax flagship to deploy it manually. Alya's focus shifted to the battlefield beyond her viewport. Earth's remaining ships were battered, some barely able to maneuver, but they were holding their own, stubbornly refusing to give up. The sight sparked a surge of pride and admiration. Earth's forces might lack the sophisticated technology of the Alliance, but they fought with a courage and tenacity that made them a formidable ally. And then, at last, they reached the flagship's proximity threshold. "Mason, now!" Alya shouted. Mason didn't hesitate. He activated the device, releasing it from the vigilant flame and sending it spinning toward the flagship, its blue light intensifying as it neared its target. The orb zipped through space, closing the final distance until it was within range of the Aerithrax's neural core. A moment passed, tense and silent. And then, the orb detonated. A shockwave of shimmering blue energy rippled outward, enveloping the Aerithrax flagship. For a split second, the lights along the vessel's hull flickered and dimmed. The drones around it wobbled, their formations faltering as they lost their neural synchronization. On the bridge of the vigilant flame, the crew held their breath. Alya watched as the Aerithrax ships seemed to shudder, their movements jerky and erratic. The flagship's neural systems were clearly disrupted, but they had no idea how long the effect would last. Everyone, hit them hard! Alya shouted. The vigilant flame surged forward, unloading its remaining arsenal into the weakened Erythrax flagship. Explosions erupted across the vessel's surface, and Earth's ships seized the opportunity, launching their own coordinated assault. Plasma bolts, missiles, and railgun fire rained down on the Erythrax, who were now struggling to maintain formation. Yet the Erythrax were not defeated so easily. After only moments of disarray, their flagship systems began to stabilize, the flickering lights along its hull regaining their ominous rhythm. The drones reorganized, locking onto the vigilant flame with renewed focus. "They're recovering," Farah yelled, her voice thick with desperation. Alya's mind raced. They had thrown everything they had at the Erythrax, and still, it hadn't been enough. The final key had given them a momentary advantage, but they needed something more, a way to hit the Erythrax where it hurt. Then, an idea struck her. It was risky, unorthodox, and possibly suicidal, but it was their only option. "Rock, set a collision course with the flagship," she ordered, her voice steady. Rock's eyes widened in shock. "Commander, are you?" "Do it, Rock. We'll use our remaining power to ram their neural core directly. If we hit them with everything we've got, we might be able to cause a critical shutdown." Quinn and her squad, still holding off the drones, looked back at her in silent agreement. They understood the cost, the risk, but they also knew the stakes. As the vigilant flame closed in on the flagship, Alya felt a sense of calm settle over her. If this was their last stand, then they would make it count.